don't believe in intellectual property. I really don't. When I founded McAfee, the very front screen said, please steal this software. I never copyrighted it. I never patented it. I just ran with it. There are many countries in the world that do not have intellectual property rights because to them it makes no sense. What does that actually mean? We are standing on the shoulders of giants, all of us. All of us. Isaac Newton, who invented the calculus. I mean, good Lord, what is intellectual property? I have an idea. Well, good God, everybody has ideas. Everybody has ideas. It's what you do with it that matters. You have an idea, run with it. Someone else has the same idea, you run with it too. That's what competition is all about. But forget that for the time being. What do I think of the executive order? Here's what I have learned. It does not matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or what have you, a libertarian. When you get to be the president, you get corrupt. You are corrupt, and you think more about the power that you can retain after you leave office than you do about anything else. Most people think about how not to leave office, like FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt. I don't know how many terms he ran, but he started as a young man, and he was in his early hundreds, I think, when he quit. So this is just what happens to people. You get power, something happens to your mind, and you want to control things. You think because you have power that you have the intelligence and the wisdom to make decisions for people. Well, not me. No one's going to make a decision for me. This is my life. We've already abdicated everything else to the government. After 9/11, the Homeland Security is created and say, put your trust in us, we will keep you safe. There's no such thing. No such thing as safety. Not unless you create it yourself. I mean, do you actually believe if a burglar breaks in your house, standing in your bedroom with a gun to your head, that you can push a magic button and the police is going to appear between you and the burglar? No. Later, after you've been shot, and try and solve the crime. Security and safety do not exist unless you create them yourself. So what happens is that dictators, and I think every man in power wants to be a dictator secretly somewhere inside, and certainly political dictators, are seeking one thing, the holy grail of dictatorship. Or forget dictatorship, totalitarianism. I did an interview with the largest Russian magazine last week, and they asked some very intense questions. I like the Russians. And they said, how would you describe what's happening in America? They said, well, America is turning into a capitalistic totalitarian regime. And he thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. I was serious. I was serious there because the holy grail of totalitarianism is absolute knowledge. The word, action, feeling, and thought of the populace. How close are we to that right now? I think we're very close to that. And if our government has not thought about how they can use that to retain the structure and the ideals that exist within the current administration, then someone's not thinking right. So I don't trust any president. They are all the same after they sit down in that Oval Office and realize, I run this country. First thing that comes to mind is I need to protect all of my people. I need to do this. I need to do that. If you ask me, Congress, Senate, all three branches of government, let's give them a year's vacation. I promise you, nothing bad will happen. Nothing bad will happen. We'll still have roads. We'll still have everything else, except we'll save a bunch of taxes. Laws are being created at an alarming rate. There used to be 10 laws, right? Do not kill, do not discover thy wife or thy neighbor's ass, or whatever. But now, hundreds of thousands of expanding laws upon laws upon laws. What is this all about? Seriously. Because if I cannot read every law, I cannot possibly adhere to every law. There's no way you can read all of these laws. There's no way you can adhere without some secondhand knowledge that, you don't smoke dope in public here because you're going to get arrested. But we have too much of this. Go home, everybody. So what do I think of the executive order? I don't give a shit. I really don't. Because it will be removed or reversed by the next president, or it will be overturned by the judiciary, or it will stay in place until somebody revolts. I'm more concerned with why aren't people taking matters into their own hands? Why are we standing up and saying, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. Because I'm mad as hell, clearly. This is the issue. It's not the government. What do we think about Obama? What do we think about? No, what do we think about ourselves? Why the fuck aren't we out there in the street with signs?
Here.
John, I want to ask you a semi-serious question. How do I uninstall McAfee antivirus?
There's probably the best uninstall is on YouTube. You just go to the John McAfee channel, and it's pretty close to the top. And it's just how to uninstall McAfee.
Yeah, it's some of the best technology video in the world.
Yes, absolutely hilarious. I loved it.
Not hilarious, serious.
John, you mentioned before your dealings in Belize. Is there any thing you want to share with our listeners about recently what's happened with that whole situation as it was popular in the news? A lot of our listeners were curious.
Oddly enough, Dateline just this past Thursday, last week, did another hour on that topic. They charmed me into believing they were going to talk mostly about my new company. They spent about 15 seconds on the company, the rest of the time on Belize. But then that's Dateline, isn't it? I'm getting treated better by the press as more and more information comes out about the country. Here's the facts of it. I was a stupid American, took all of my money, all of my assets, went to Belize, not to escape anything, but to retire. It's a beautiful country.
It is. I've been there. It's actually beautiful. Yeah, you're right.
It has the second largest barrier reef in the world. It's got a jungle, rolling hills interior. If you go to the interior, you can't walk more than 15 minutes without stumbling on some old Mayan ruins that have not been excavated yet. So, gorgeous place. But I was foolish. I was there, and I lived on the island of San Pedro, which is an American expat enclave. And I said, I want to move to the interior. Not move, but I bought a house on the New River in a little town called Orange Walk. I was the only white man in town of 15,000 people. I built this massive compound on the banks of the New River. And then I started developing a new way antibiotic based on quorum sensing, which is a new science of bacterial communication. Loved that science. So I was out there with a big lab. I had armed guards. Why? Because every lab in the world, I'd get white people knocking on my gate. White, what are you guys doing here in Orange Walk? Oh, well, we're with Merck Company. We'd like to talk to you about your research. So that's why I had the guards. For 2 years, and the local politician came and said, Mr. McAfee, I'm sorry we haven't met. But the election is coming up. If you could fund us $2 million, that'll guarantee our election. And in return, we've got 100,000 acres of land along the river up here. We've got all this other stuff. We've got women. We've got God knows what. And I said, I'm just not interested. I'm too old for all of that. A week later, 42 armed soldiers stormed my compound, shot my dog in front of my eyes, destroyed $500,000 worth of my property and all of my laboratory. Kept me handcuffed in the sun for 14 hours with my hands behind my back, kneeling. Try that. Then they left. The next day, the guy came back and said, oh, God, I'm so sorry, Mr. McAfee. What a mistake that was. Oh, God, we are so sorry. We just can't know how to apologize. By the way, have you reconsidered your donation? So get the fuck off my property. And I went to the international press. So here's what I was trying to do. I did some underhanded things. I gifted lower employees of the government computers, laptops. All of them I had keystroke locking software on. I knew that the computers would be stolen by the higher-ups as soon as they got them because I shipped them to the offices. And I started monitoring what the government was doing. Why? I wanted to find proof that they had set me up so that they would give me a fucking apology and reparation for their damages. And I don't know how you reparate the damage of a killed dog who was your best friend. Instead, good God Almighty, I didn't find anything out about that. I did find out that the Prime Minister was engaged in extrajudicial murder of all of his competitors. The Minister of National Defense was the largest human trafficker in all of Central America. The Minister of Finance was into drugs, and everybody else was into equally as an equivalent of offshore things. So that went on for about a year. I didn't know what to do with this stuff until one of the employees, because I had a lot of people working for me collecting this data, people who I thought I trusted, ratted on me. The next day, my neighbor was murdered. I went on the run. And I've been on the run ever since. There was an attempt on my life in Portland in 2012, September the 13th, 2012. My wife was with me, witnessed the entire affair. 2:15, and I got an alert from the American Embassy in Belize, well, not officially the embassy, but an employee of the embassy saying something's coming, and it's this week. So I was up watching at 2:15 in the morning, 2 police officers on motorcycles, and a black sedan and a garbage truck pulled up outside our condo.
Jesus, that's scary.
My wife and I ran downstairs. We hid under a car for 5 hours while they searched the entire building for us. Garbage trucks don't collect garbage at 2:15 in the morning. And when I went to the FBI said, these officers don't drive, but motorized police in Portland don't drive after dark. So they were either rogue officers or people in fake uniforms. Ever since then, I've been sort of half on the run. And I found out again from the American Embassy in Belize, that the Belizean government had hired the Sinaloa cartel to remove him. So that's my story about Belize. Not very exciting.